When I think about games that I wish I could forget everything about in order to re-experience them for the first time all over again, Batman Arkham City tops the list. It's a game that really redefined my perception of gaming. It showed me just how immersive and exciting the medium can be. Rocksteady's intention with Arkham City was one that they determined before Arkham Asylum even shipped. They wanted this sequel to be set in Gotham. They wanted to take Batman and the gameplay loop they'd built for him and apply it to a more open world. In under 2 years and with a team of under 100 developers, Rocksteady created arguably the best superhero game ever, and also just generally speaking, one of the best games ever. The combat and stealth of Arkham City still feel cutting edge today. The art direction still looks great, even though the textures have aged a little bit. And the story, while not without its minor flaws, is so well paced and exciting that its replayability has never lost its charm. I'm still doing replays of Arkham City to this day. But what made Batman Arkham City special outside of a really good combat system? It doesn't have the biggest open world. It doesn't have a flawless story. So today I want to break down why Batman Arkham City resonated with so many fans of the character and gamers in general. Let's start by addressing how Rocksteady executed their pitch of putting Batman in Gotham. Like I mentioned, Arkham City is not a very big map. It really is comprised of about 4 city blocks. You can traverse across the whole map in just over a minute. So what makes it so special? It's the density. How layered it is with lore and Easter eggs and things to do. In fact, the pretentious title I'm going to give this video is Arkham City is a theme park for Batman fans. I'll be the first to admit that Arkham City doesn't feel like a place that could exist in the real world. Why is there a chemical plant sitting right next to a movie theater? Why are the streets too narrow for cars? Why is there nowhere for all of these people to park? Personally, I've always found the answer pretty simple. Arkham City's intention is not to feel like a real geographical location, but rather an attempt to handcraft a Gotham City that feels reminiscent of the comics and the animated series and make it a playable space for characters to inhabit. As a Batman fan, I really appreciate the care and attention to detail that Rocksteady put into this environment. It doesn't feel like even a square foot of Arkham City is wasted space. Much like a real theme park, there's something to see or do around every corner in Arkham City. There are cameras and balloons that you can throw batarangs at to destroy. There's tons of side missions to stumble across, and there's Riddler trophies hidden behind puzzles to solve. Rocksteady filled Arkham City with so many things to do that there's always a sense of progression. There's always a sense of immersion if the player wants it. If you just want to follow the story beats, you are totally free to do that. But for those who want more, for those who want to be immersed further in the world of Gotham City, Rocksteady gives them that opportunity. This approach also made Rocksteady seem incredibly confident in their work. It didn't feel like there was any insecurity or fear that players wouldn't want to experience the side missions. They knew that they'd crafted high-quality content, and the player knew it pretty quickly as well, and therefore us as players wanted to explore every inch of the city. Overall, the map has such an interesting contrast to it. You can still see the neon signs, including this one that I always tried to keep out of view whenever my mom was downstairs when I was playing the game. The point is that we can see the life that this area once had. We can see where people went to go see movies, and the back alley where Batman's parents were murdered. We can see the courthouse where justice was once served, the museum where people once went to learn, the hotel where tourists once stayed, the steel mill where people once worked. But like Bruce Wayne, the city has a darker side. We can see how it is now. It's dilapidated and dying. The textures are gray and aged. Half of the city is flooded, and all of these once proud establishments have been twisted to serve the purpose of the villains trapped in Arkham City. During the story, the 2 leads, Batman and Joker, are dying, and so is this part of Gotham. As you explore this map, you'll also find it littered with Easter eggs. You can see where the Great White Shark once worked as Warren White. You can see where Maxie Zeus probably hung out. You can see a poster from the Ratcatcher advertising his services. You can look across the map and see where the last game took place. Arkham Asylum is still standing. Arkham City also does something really cool with the Riddler. They use him as a catalyst for the player to explore. Yes, this is all really cool fan service for fans of the character, but they incentivize anyone who plays the game to collect rewards by exploring the city. You pay more attention to the environment when you're searching every nook and cranny for Easter eggs and Riddler trophies. Similarly, there's a ton of side missions that just feel very dynamically placed. You'll hear a gunshot somewhere and you know that that's where Deadshot has just assassinated a target and you need to go find him. A telephone will start ringing and you know that you need to answer it so that Victor Zsasz doesn't kill a victim. You'll find a dead body missing its face and you'll know that Hush has struck again. You'll see a mysterious figure watching you from the rooftops who leaves cryptic symbols for you to scan. Even though these encounters are all scripted and you start seeing where they're scripted upon replays, it feels so dynamic the first time you play Arkham City. And it's still more interesting than just having every objective suddenly pop up on your map as soon as a new side mission is unlocked. Even the Riddler side mission that I mentioned has a lot of narrative. He's captured hostages and is holding them in puzzle rooms. As you collect more trophies and solve more riddles, you'll find out where they are and be able to save them. You can interrogate Riddler informants in a number of interesting ways. The animations for these are so cool. Sometimes Batman will push them up against the wall. Sometimes he'll lift them by their throat. Sometimes he'll hang them by their foot over the edge of a building. The whole experience is crafted around making you feel immersed in this character and his world, and it's why so many people walk away from these games saying that it makes them feel like Batman. Working your way through the side missions, particularly Riddler's, allow you to unlock challenge maps, which encourage you to utilize the combat and stealth mechanics in new and interesting ways. The game allows the player to feel like a detective trying to uncover the mystery behind these characters and Arkham City. It gives you character bios to read through that give you insight to who these characters are. It gives you Arkham City stories to give you background to how this all came to be. They gave you some patient interview tapes to listen to where Hugo Strange is conducting interviews with Joker, Mad Hatter, Catwoman, and more, and it shows you just how much Hugo Strange is stirring the pot. In my estimation, Rocksteady completely succeeded in their goal of putting Batman into Gotham. They knew that they couldn't have the most expansive open world, so instead they created a small one that was densely layered with things to see and things to do. Virtually, they created a Batman theme park for fans of the character. The level dungeons of the main story and side missions feel like the rides, the Riddler trophies and things to interact with feel like the carnival games. And just how like every time I leave Disneyland Googling Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean and how they were built and the lore behind them, I'm similarly Googling the lore behind some of the side characters of Arkham City. The game makes the world of Batman feel so interesting and accessible, and it's all wrapped with the beautiful ambience of the cold snowfall and the haunting score. It sounds like a combination of Danny Elfman's Batman themes and Hans Zimmer's Batman themes, but it also somehow manages to feel completely original. As far as the main story goes, it actually plays out a lot like a 6-issue comic. It also has a ton of fan service. Within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, you'll come across Catwoman, Two-Face, you can see cameos of Black Mask, Deadshot, Azrael, and you'll have brief interactions with Hugo Strange and Penguin. It immediately feels like a lived-in world that started before Bruce Wayne arrived in Arkham City. As the story progresses, you'll encounter Penguin again. This time he's kidnapped Mr. Freeze and you have to rescue him. You'll come across the League of Assassins led by Ra's al Ghul and his daughter Talia. Joker and Harley also have a major role in the game's story as well. Beneath the really fun packaging of fan service and really strong pacing, there's still a very competently told story here. If Batman Arkham Asylum is a story about insanity, then Batman Arkham City is a story about death. The opening image of Arkham City is literally an artistic depiction of Cain and Abel, and the closing image is Batman carrying Joker's dead body from Monarch Theater, the same location where his parents died. Every time this primary theme of death emerges from all the fan service and fun encounters, it feels really solemn and makes the stakes feel really high. The ending of this game is incredibly somber. No one is celebrating the death of the Joker. It feels oddly mournful. It feels strangely somber. And it's clearly affecting Batman even though they don't really state why. And the more I think about it, the more I like that they don't overstate how Batman is feeling about things. I like that they keep him stoic and leave it up to the player's interpretation. It allows Batman to feel more like a vessel for the player's own emotions. It also allows Batman to feel more like a nuanced character. They're able to give the player insight to his psyche without giving him long monologues or dialogue. I know a lot of people like to act like Paul Dini and Rocksteady didn't write any interesting character beats for Batman in their games, but I think the moments when Batman is willing to pretty much sacrifice all of the inmates of Arkham City in order to rescue Talia speaks volumes. I like the moments where he almost snaps at Oracle for bringing up the possibility that maybe he's committing the murders that people claim they've seen Bruce Wayne doing. I like the moments when Oracle has to plead with Batman to not let Talia get in the way of his mission again, because there's clearly a history there. I like seeing Batman's progression through the story, going from stoic and calculating at the beginning to desperate and sometimes a bit rash near the end because he's dying. Arkham City feels like an interesting commentary and expansion upon Batman's thesis of the Killing Joke, that at some point either Batman or Joker would end up dead because of their feud. The inclusion of Ra's al Ghul was also a really strong one, a character who should be dead but is cheating death using an unnatural source. Arkham City's conclusion is kind of magical because once all the fan service is done and once all of the encounters are done, you're left with an odd sense of grieving, like Batman is. When Joker dies, it definitely feels like something is lost. This feeling carries over into Harley Quinn's Revenge, where the fun starts to slip away, and it's not disengaging. It doesn't make me want to put down the controller, but it makes me re-evaluate Batman's world in an interesting way. Hugo Strange adds a lot of nuance to the character of Batman because he constantly taunts Batman, asking him deeply personal questions. Batman, of course, doesn't respond, but we as the player get to think about it. Why did Bruce Wayne become Batman in the first place? Was it to bury his rage? Was it to bury his sadness? Or was it for something else altogether? Hugo Strange asks Batman to consider if he's responsible for the creation of so many of these supervillains. Would the Joker even exist if Batman didn't exist? At the beginning of the game, Hugo Strange calls Arkham City a monument to Batman's failure. Near the end of the game, we learned that Arkham City was actually a ploy set up by Ra's al Ghul to wipe out the criminal element of Gotham, but Hugo Strange raises a fair point. Is Batman even successful? Arkham City exists with all of its supervillains intact. Is Batman even doing any good, or is he just perpetuating the issue? If he's responsible, even in part, for the creation of Joker, are all of those lives that Joker has taken at least partially on his hands? Batman Arkham City gives Bruce Wayne a lot of food for thought, but it's us, the player, that get to do the thinking for him, because he doesn't state through expository dialogue how he feels about the answers. I know that there's some people out there who wish that this game had a more cinematic story, with more cutscenes and some more character development, maybe even outside of the costumes, but I think that they hit a good balance. Arkham City is still an interesting examination of Batman's world and lore, but it's also paced in such a compelling and breakneck speed that it feels fun every time I play it. There's no mission that I view as the really slow mission that just has a lot of cutscenes to explain dialogue. It's always fun and fast, and listening to Paul Dini's interviews make it clear that that was the intention. He wasn't trying to write a Batman movie or a Batman comic. He was trying to write a story that would service the gameplay while still giving an interesting examination of the character and the world. And frankly, I think he succeeded. I think that this is pretty much a perfect Batman story for this medium. Now, I know that not everyone will agree. Not everyone will empathize with Arkham City on the same level that I did, but many did. This game still has a really strong reputation, and it has since it released in 2011. But if you're not someone who likes Arkham City, if you're someone who just doesn't think it's that good, or thinks it's really overhyped, or just doesn't think it's the best in the series, I don't fault you. I don't think that there's any problem with preferring another game. Even something as simple as the change in gameplay philosophy between Arkham Asylum and Arkham City changed a lot, and Arkham City lost a lot of the strengths that Arkham Asylum had. Gone is the really tight and focused story in favor of one that has a lot more fan service. Gone is the creepy isolation of Arkham Asylum because Arkham City is more open. Gone is the really tactical stealth where the player is limited to very few movements because now there's so many options and the stealth feels more like an action game than a horror game. I can totally understand how a huge fan of Arkham Asylum would go into Arkham City and still prefer the former, but I'm also glad that they didn't just remake Arkham Asylum in a different environment. I'm glad that they expanded and did something new. I'm glad they worked so hard to improve the combat and stealth so that it feels even more fluid than it did in Arkham Asylum. I understand why some might want more focus on the essentials of the story rather than delving into all of these side tangents, but personally I think it keeps the pace really fresh. But even I'll acknowledge that I have some issues with it. I think the story relies way too heavily on ellipses, or in other words, things that happen off-screen that change the world. Now, on one hand, that's actually kind of cool. It feels like Batman isn't the only dynamic character. It feels like the world is evolving and changing on its own, but sometimes objectives seem a little bit unclear because something has happened off-screen that was kind of critical to the story. The final moments of the game, for example, when you confront Joker in Monarch Theater, feel a little bit lacking in context. Personally, for me though, none of these moments ruin the story for me because they're always saved by the rule of cool. The impact of the payoff of all of these events is so cool that I don't really care that there was some convenient setup for it. The Clayface fakeout is certainly not something I saw coming the first time I played the game, but now every time I replay it, I enjoy learning more clues and seeing more evidence that it is Clayface the entire time. It becomes kind of a fun game upon replays to see if you can catch all the Easter eggs. I also really enjoyed learning more about this world and characters upon replays as I found more Riddler secrets and got to listen to more audio logs and read more Arkham City stories. I feel like I have so much more context on how this story plays out, and I think it's a great one. It's a great story about death and the eventual death of the Joker. A somber, personal tale wrapped in an amusement park for Batman fans. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll be doing more Arkham breakdowns like this one and the Arkham Asylum video that I did a couple days ago. I'll have that linked in the description below if you missed it. But let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite Arkham game and what do you think about Arkham City? Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.